Hi, everybody. This is your friend Daniel Hutchins. As you see, I'm just on my bed again. As you see, my lights and my posters and stuff. But yeah, we're back on our friends doing some comic book universe article discussions. Yes, from our friends' comic book resources. Okay, so we're gonna first talk about Aquaman, and then we're gonna talk about some other stuff. Okay, so Aquaman warped Jurassic World's scariest monster from the acts of police brutality. In an Aquaman and a Green Arrow Deep Target number 6, the Aquatic Justice League hero commits a questionable act that summons a creature out of Jurassic World. Okay, this is 3 days ago. One in there are spoilers. Okay, so the DC universe has been a few times when Aquaman has acted in unquestionable manners. He's been heated debates with Batman and Superman over how Justice League should be before he got enlisted, and as DC's Throne of Atlantis arc, it shows he would cross the line to protect his family and the kingdoms of Atlantis. In Aquaman and Green Arrow, The Deep Target number 6 by Brandon Thomas and others, Arthur is now seen once more abusing his power, turning the scariest monster from Jurassic World into a merciless enforcer. Okay, related to this article, DC's best neglected friendship is overdue for another road trip. But we ain't talking about that, we're talking about something else. Okay, so the creature in question is the Mosasaurus, well remembered for delivered horrific moments from Jurassic World. Now, the Deep Targets story, we saw Aquaman using his telepathy to spark a similar response with this monster and strongly resembles a dinosaur. He then uses the creature to rise up from a lake like a helicopter. The villains of this story were used in an effort to escape. This act can be seen as both cruel and sadistic, especially given so that he is perpetrated by a heroic member of DC's upstanding Justice League, even though this becomes even more concerning in the light of the fact that the issue never confirmed the survival of the villains who were in the helicopter in the time of this attack. Aquaman himself appears to have little or no concern about their fate. The moment is that it's made even worse when the monster grabs the reptilian main villain of the lake. Okay, related to this article, it's time for Green Arrow's son, Connor Hawke, to retake the spotlight. We're not talking about that, we're talking something else. The directly mimic an equally terrifying scene from Jurassic World is which Mosasaurus rose up from the water tanks and grabbed the Dominus Rex, pulling that in the tank. But while the nature and survival of the fittest, Aquaman has abused his power again, acting in a tyrannical manner. To make matters more worse, the Atlantean punched his opponent a few times into the death before finally freeing him from the jaws of the massive beast. The entire scene, while also very powerful, is very quite disturbing. But the lesson learned is really possibility is that general consensus say that they see him drown or have been seriously wounded by the teeth of this monster. Although this attack was clearly meant to be intimidating, this may has ultimately been yet another example of Atlantean powerhouse and going too far, using his powers in a way that comes across as not only unethical, was also brutal and unnecessary. Okay, guys, so let me know your thoughts about that. We're going to be going over to talk about the Ravager and Deathstroke. Okay, Ravager and Deathstroke. Violent history is reaching an inevitable conclusion. Ravager might be finally be ready to bring the end to the difficult relationship with her dad. The question is, can she follow through? Okay, this was a couple hours ago, everyone. Morning, there are spoilers for the Batman number 122, which we talked about in another video. Now, Ravager has always had difficult relationships with her dad, emotionally distant man and best of times, an abusive parent and the rest. Deathstroke's parenting style has not only damaged all his children, but in some cases has driven them to seek revenge against him. Ravager has always been different. While she holds animosity towards her father, she has never truly been pushed to go after him. This has all seemed to change in Batman number 122 by Joshua Williamson and others. Now, again, after being betrayed by Respawn, accepting that her father was the upset the natural order of the DC Universe, but claiming himself the king of the villains, Ravager seemed to set to kill him. She then was allied with Robin to pull it off. But even though, after knowing for so many years and coming close to having somewhat normal family dynamics with them, actually pull a trigger? Well, that's a good question. Okay, related to this article, DC's Batman Deathstroke Redcon turned Slade Wilson the Batman's true opposite. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about someone else. Rose Wilson was a result of a brief love affair between Deathstroke and a client of his, Sweet Lily. Rose's mother rightfully thought it was best to hide their kid from Deathstroke, inevitably found out, but there are joint patterns of disinterest at first. Deathstroke didn't want to be near her, not trusting his track record with his own children. Then, when he found both his sons were both dead, he manipulated Rose into becoming his apprentice, putting on a fake hit to her, and providing her the opportunity to murder the man she believed killed her mother on the test. Okay, Ravager would also eventually break free from the cycle of manipulation from her father in equal measure. Despite this, she's never really had courage to seek revenge. Even after doing so, and after everything he did for her, her commitment to kill her dad now is questionable. All in all, Deathstroke has done to her lately isn't really that bad as the earliest moments, of course. But of course, she still holds a grudge against him for abandoning the family after he tried to unite them again. A fact that actually brought tears to her eyes. It's just it all took through. And again, it takes its course, guys. It takes its course. And then she would have to gone after him much earlier. Okay? Related to this article, Batman latest emotional blunder might jeopardize his greatest romance. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about something else. Okay. So the most likely reason for Rose has accepted the fact that there's nothing redeemable in her father. For the briefest moment, she wanted to believe he could do good, but only was disappointed. Now he seems to be doing the opposite, not only trying to lead an army of villains, but also murdering Ra's al Ghul. This has consequently upsets the balance of power on Earth. She isn't going after Deathstroke to settle a grudge, but she's doing it because she believes it would be better for the world if he were gone. Ravager's attitude towards the rest of the world has more resignation to an unfortunate task than a mission of great importance. It's understandable that he's her father and part of her loves him, but at the other side, you also see that she's also much of his victim as she is his daughter. Those feelings are now coming into conflict. Rose's overall portrayal is one of defeat, but not because she has to kill her father, but because doing so eliminates any chances to a happy ending. So the question still stands, can she still pull a trigger? Well, she also undoubtedly has motives to do so, whether she has will in the question. Again, she could very well be the one to end his life, in doing so by sparing the world whatever trouble her dad could come up with leaving Rose with the knowledge that she killed her dad in cold blood. This would be really messed up, guys, so don't do this. So again, it would also destroy any chance of having a relationship with Respawn. But in the long run, it might just be a terrible price you pay. Now, however, her seeming exhausted with the whole situation implies that she might let Deathstrokes be spared, perhaps finally washing her hands clean of the pain of the past. Okay, so again, guys, let me know your thoughts. Okay, you want to know more about Ben Riley's Spider Man? I can tell you more about Ben Riley's Spider Man. Ben Riley's Spider Man's final fate is worse than the old luck ever was. So, in Amazing Spider Man number 93, Ben Riley's Spider Man has faced a final fate far worse than anything Peter Parker has ever endured. But does he deserve it? This was a couple days ago. Warning, there are spoilers for the Amazing Spider Man number 93 by Marvel Comics. Now, during the Beyond storyline, Peter Parker's long suffering clone Ben Riley has given the chance to once again take the mantle of Spider Man. Again, this time under a mask proved to uncharacteristically being unhealthy. But not only has Ben proved himself to be capable of a hero's genetic temperament, but he's also rekindled his romance with his old flame. Also mended his estranged relationship with Peter, gaining a sense of purpose and fulfillment has eluded him his entire life. Unfortunately, Ben's life has always been defined by seemingly inescapable cycles of sudden triumph and subsequent tragedy, and that pattern has once again repeated itself in Amazing Spider-Man number 93 by Zeb Wells and Company. While Ben's latest downfall is the consequence of his own self-centered choices, the decision to once again turn to the former Scarlet Spider to a villainous reflection of Spider-Man is emblematic and sadistic desire to unnecessarily punish the characters for their roles in the infamous Clone Saga. Related to this article, Ben Riley's Spider Man showcases his tormented physique in a best way possible. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about someone else. Throughout Ben's partnership with Beyond, the corporation has been secretly wiping the implanted memories from Ben, shared with Peter, to transform him into the first potentially long line of Beyond brand heroes and villains. Although Ben has initially teamed up with Peter to take down Beyond after discovering what they planned, his grown mental instability allowed his former handler, Maxine Danger, to manipulate him into attacking Peter, promising that she could use the same device she used to wipe his memories to transfer Peter's into his. After this device was destroyed in ensuing battles, despondent Ben had to allow himself to be consumed by the flood of toxic chemicals by Maxine released from the building. Although Ben has survived and eventually rescued by his girlfriend, the loss of his memory is lingering effects of chemicals twisted in his mind and body, turning him into a villainous chasm. Although Ben's transformation into Chasm is portrayed in shocking turns of events, it isn't the first time he's taken on more villainous roles in the Marvel Universe. Following the death of the hands of Norman Osborn in Spider Man number 75 by Howard Mackie, John Romita Jr., and others, we also know Ben's dissolved remains were collected by his creator, Miles Warren, who then reportedly killed and resurrected himself to test new clones. In the cloning process, driven mad by the agony of his multiple deaths, Ben had broke free, defeated Warren, and used his resource to found new U technology. They also then had to use this to redefine the cloning process, hoping to use this to a new and improved method to improve all of humanity. But again, Ben had attempted to kill the entire population of Earth before, without anyone ever knowing this, with the Carrion virus to replace them with all superior clone duplicates, only to get defeated by Peter and Dr. Octopus. Now, despite his genuine desire to be a hero, to live up to his memory of Peter, of Uncle Ben, now Riley always has to find himself enduring one from another forms of suffering from another person. But again, while Ben isn't the first Marvel character to undergo traumatic experiences, this decision is continuously tormenting him until it appears to stem from the creative team. Central figure to often reviled Clone Saga, Ben has become intrinsically associated with his infamous storyline, and again, the constant agony he endured sometimes before he appeared to be way too much for Marvel to denounce the divisive event by continuously punishing the main character. Related to this article, the other Spider Man, Ben Reilly, proves why Marvel should not fear its past. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. However, the continuous torments of Ben has almost all the narrative punch and become counterproductive. By keeping Riley around, the creative teams utilize him and continuously raising the ghost of the Clone Saga, and so on that event continues to play defined roles in Spider-Man mythology by giving Ben a happy ending. Marvel could have finally exercised this spirit of the story and given him the longest suffering hero closure. The old Parker Luck is another famous story from Spider Man history that seemingly embodied limitless capacity to misfortune. It also holds that it's more true for his clone than it is ever for his web swinger, despite coming close to a degree of lasting happiness with the love of his life. Marvel has unluckiest clone has once again been cast aside by the world only to feel like it wants to be the real Spider Man. Okay, so the time check right now is we are almost 17 minutes, guys. We are almost 17 minutes. Well, actually, we're 16 minutes and almost 16 minutes and 30 seconds in this video, guys. Okay, so we are, we're actually simultaneously doing some things. I'm simultaneously playing some YouTube on the Fire TV and some Disney Plus on the PS4. But you don't have to worry because I'm doing other stuff. Plus, I'm trying to fill you guys in with this information. Okay, so, okay. You want to know what's going on? Okay. There's now this news saying there's a man in a Joker mask that is now leading an armed robbery in Brazil. Okay, a man in a Joker mask has led a armed robbery in Brazil. A member of the gang of armed robbers in Brazil has seen a guy wearing a Joker mask to conceal an identity during an ATM heist. Okay, everyone. Heavily armed gangs wearing varieties of masks portraying the Joker have robbed a supermarket ATM while its stash of cash was replenished, shooting and injuring two people while escaping on this daring heist in Brazil. Okay. The gang arrived at a supermarket in a black vehicle during early morning hours, reported by Globo.com. The neighborhood of Sorocaba, which is a city in the south of Brazil, where this robbery took place. According to a supermarket owner, an armored car service and ATM in the store had masked men arrive, one wearing a Clown Prince of Prime mask, just like the Joker. A Joker mask, let's just say. Just say Joker mask. It's Joker mask. They fired their weapons several times, hitting a guard and customer, and grabbed several drawers full of money before making their escape in the next car. Again, related to this article, Missouri police inadvertently issue alert for a Batman night. Everything. Let me reread that again. Related to this article, Missouri police inadvertently issue alert for a Batman 89 Joker car. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about something else. Guards were hit in the armpits and legs and received by grievous injuries due to the bulletproof vest they were wearing. Customer was struck to the foot and he was just arriving at the scene of crime, but then taken to a nearby hospital complex for treatments. At the very least, there were 20 shots fired by the gang, armed with pistols and machine guns. Several shells and casings were collected by taken by civil police for processing. In addition to the Joker mask guy, the security footage shows another that references the Spanish television crime series La Casa de Papel, or Money Heist, as it's called in English. The series follows a group of 8 robbers who undertake ambitious plans to rob the royal mint of Spain for almost $1 billion and wear masks that portray the Spanish surrealist painter Salvador Dali. All these masked gang members have been involved in real world robberies and escaping with specialized divisions of criminal investigations in Sorocaba for investigating. Okay, related to this article, Joshua Williamson details planning the perfect heist in the DC Black Label Rogues. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something else. Okay. This is the second crime in Brazil this year to include a reference to DC comic book characters. In January 2022, the so-called Aquaman of crime was apprehended in police by coastal areas by Sao Paulo while taking part of a complex drug smuggling operation. Joaquin Francisco Gimenez has utilized his scuba diving ability to acknowledge cargo ships to smuggle in drugs from sea boxes. Large compartments beneath the waterlines have captured seawater for the cooling of the ship engine. He then had the appropriate tools, the reasonable equipment he had for his main thing, which was to acknowledge and make the dive, said Rogério Lages, an agent of the federal police. About this operation, they open up the bars, put the drug inside, tie the close the bars so from the outside you can't see, Lages explained. Okay, so again, let me know your thoughts about that. I feel like that's pretty freaking weird. Okay, you want to know more about Sailor Moon and Moon Knight? Okay, you want to know what's going on with the line is drawn with the Moon Knight team ups? Okay, the new story, The Line is Drawn, is showing artist drawn suggestions with a team up comic book characters of Moon Knight. Okay, a team up with Moon Knight. Okay, so every week we post a topic here where you reply to the CSBG Twitter page. You write this people with your reply. Our artist will pick one of your suggestions and we post your drawings based on a suggestion you have each week. So every week you have a new question, choices to pick from previous week. To qualify, you have to follow this people on social media, and all suggestions were all due by 1:59 Pacific Monday time. The topic this week was to honor the new movie or have comic book characters team up with a fight against Morbius. Read for drawings of Came and Courtesy the last question challenge. In time to celebrate the Moon Knight TV debut, let's do a Moon Knight team up week. Suggest a comic book character you'd want to see teamed up with Moon Knight. Enjoy. So we put alphabetical order based on people we suggested, with some exceptions. All copyrights and trademarks are for the following characters held by respective owners. Again, these people suggested the Shadow, and then they also suggested Moon Girl. They also suggested Delirium of the Endless. They also suggested Sailor Moon. Yes, Sailor Moon. That's the standout one. They also had the Shadow again, Gambits. They also suggested Nick Fury. They also suggested Sailor Moon again, Shadow again. So yeah, check out those art pieces on this guy's Twitter page. You can go on there on the page is called. Let me go back up to the top and tell you what it's called. Okay, the page you go to Twitter to find this art is the CSBG Twitter page. Just write at CSBG with your reply on what suggestions you want to see for artwork challenges. Again, the topic is often has different questions based on different areas of the comic book universe. You want to see comic book art, most notably. Okay, guys, so let me know your thoughts about that. The time check right now is 24 minutes. We're almost going on 25 minutes if you think about it, but that's okay. We're going to do about one more thing. Yes, we're going to do one more thing if we can find it. We're going to try to find one more thing. At least we're going to try to. If we find something, I'll let you know. But of course, these Stupid advertisements that pop up on the corner of my computer screen. God dang it. Okay, so you want to know what's going on with Batman Beyond, okay? Batman Beyond, the White Knight, has revealed Gotham has two terrifying cults. So, Batman Beyond the White Knight has revealed two terrifying cults that have risen out of Gotham that could destroy everything the city and everything Bruce has ever fought for. This is 6 days ago. Warning, there are spoilers for the Batman Beyond the White Knight #1 on sale by DC Comics. Okay, Batman Curse of the White Knight by Sean Murphy and others. Basically, as Bruce Wayne has lucky attempt to escape Azrael's cult, Jean Paul Valley used fellow soldiers to reclaim the Holy War to reclaim Gotham to his family's name, resulting to Jim Gordon being killed and Barbara getting put in a wheelchair, thanks to the Bat and his crew dug deep, stopping up villains without becoming monsters themselves. It's reminded how Bruce and some people can warp symbols, not signals, not symbols, into different ways, while Cousin Renenwe created an air of self introspection. He then turned himself in, unmasked in front of the city, and gave away all of his fortune to rebuild Gotham. However, the first issue in the Beyond the White Knight by Sean Murphy and others were a decade later, where Bruce's world has been rocked by two terrifying cults rising out of the fear and carnage. Okay, related to this article, one of the Teen Titans students shares a major Batman Beyond connection. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. The first cult were the Sons of Azrael, spotted early from this story. They wore some red paint over their faces to homage to villain masks. They caused a prison riot, taking wardens like Jason Todd hostage. They viewed Azrael as their dad, listening to their stories how Gotham was taken by his family, the real Waynes, and the Bedcar bloodline. Now, in fact is, they know everything solely in Bruce's lineage because ultimately the Bat is descended from Bedcar criminals. They beat Jason mercilessly, stunting Bruce into action after they seemed to be habitual indiscretions. Bruce had pummeled them, though making it clear the rivalry has been put to bed years ago. He then saved Azrael's life with a blood transfusion so that he wanted the debt to be paid. He freed Jason, and then the cult obliged because no matter what, Azrael respected Bruce as a warrior of honor. However, when they were calm now, their code could be spread outside the confines of jails, giving rises to violence. After all, many people still don't like the Bakars. Fortune helped pillage the city of the Wayne Industries, being a slush fund for criminals. Thus, normal citizens of that will become parts of the Suns too. They could represent Edmund Wayne or Jean Paul, who also had birthrights stolen. You go on and Gotham Rampage and facilitate the change. The second cult appeared in a prison as well. Ironically, this is the Quell the Riot because Dick had arrived in the Gotham Terrorist Oppression Unit, aka the GTO. But again, don't get that mixed up with the car. It's called GTO. Even that's not. It's the Gotham Terrorist Oppression Unit. It's not GTO like the car GTO. Don't get yourself mixed up with that. Again, but to Bruce's shock and amazement, they had military bat suits on. The helmet has also homaged the bat too. The color scheme is also brighter. It had reflected Dick's rude attitude, indicating he doesn't care for what Bruce thought anymore and wanted to reshape the mantle of Batman. Okay, so related to this article, how Batman Beyond's Bruce Wayne became DC Comics Obi-Wan Kenobi. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about someone else. Okay, it turns out the sinister Derek Palos has gained full control of the Wayne's estate and turned the business into weapons manufacturing units. Funds went to the GTO rather than the Gotham PD. The jails had to rebuild the general, and then also Bruce realized he had to turn his beloved city into a police state. Dick was adamant that he was right away with this forward stuff and nodded towards the fastest fear state DC explored recently. Again, to make it even more worse, Dick has endorsed police brutality and murder and trigger happy cops in their tanks, tamped in everything Bruce has ever worked for. Guns and violence were the way, which even Duke brought on. But again, we left Bruce petrified, knowing it was a powder keg waiting to happen from these streets. With people seeking social inequality, justice, and representation, Dick's cult was clearly thought to be the judge, jury, and execution above the law. Could create a worse war the city has ever ensconced in. Again, guys, let me know your thoughts about that. Let me know your thoughts about that. I figured I'd do another 30-minute and let you guys know that there is a lot of stuff going on in the comic books, guys. There's a lot of stuff going on in the comic books. So if you don't pay attention to the comic books, then maybe you should look into the comic books because the comic books can tell you lots of different things that are going on in the comic book universe. Again, guys, so yeah, I'm gonna hang this video up and I'm just gonna just relax and I'll see you guys probably a little later. Bye, everyone.